The first thing Caleb Turner noticed was the coat, a faded brown winter coat with a missing button near the collar. He had bought that for his mother 8 years earlier, and now she was standing beneath a Detroit freeway, waiting in line for a free meal. For a moment, Caleb thought his mind was playing a cruel trick on him. He was a successful engineer returning home after 7 years abroad, a rich son coming back with plans, gifts, and promises. His mother was supposed to be safe, comfortable, taken care of. Instead, she looked thin, tired, and homeless. The traffic light turned green. Cars began moving. But Caleb couldn't move at all, because the woman standing under that freeway was his mother. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Only a few hours earlier, everything had seemed exactly the way he imagined it would. Caleb had spent the last 7 years in Dubai overseeing major construction projects across the Middle East. The work was demanding, the hours were brutal, but every sacrifice had a purpose. He had promised himself that one day his mother would never have to worry about money again. Now that day had finally arrived. His business investments were thriving. His salary was more than he had ever dreamed possible. For the first time in his life, Caleb felt secure. As the plane crossed the Atlantic, he had stared out the window and smiled. He pictured Gloria opening the front door. He pictured her crying, laughing, wrapping her arms around him. He had imagined that moment hundreds of times. What he never imagined was finding her standing in a homeless outreach line. The taxi driver slowed beside the curb. "Sir?" Caleb barely heard him. His eyes never left the woman, the grey hair, the familiar posture, the old coat. His heart slammed against his ribs. "Stop the car." The driver pulled over. Before the vehicle fully stopped, Caleb was already outside. He crossed the street without thinking. The cold Detroit wind cut through his jacket, but he didn't feel it. All he felt was fear. The woman slowly turned. For one terrible second, Caleb wished he had been wrong. He wasn't. "Mom?" Gloria Turner froze. The paper meal container slipped from her hands and landed on the sidewalk. Her eyes widened. "Caleb?" He rushed forward and wrapped his arms around her. She felt frighteningly light, far lighter than he remembered. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. People moved around them. Volunteers continued handing out food. Cars passed overhead. The world kept moving. But Caleb's world had stopped. Finally, he pulled back. His eyes searched her face. "What happened?" Gloria looked away. "Mom, what happened to you?" Instead of answering, she grabbed his wrist. Not gently, not like a happy reunion, like someone terrified. "You can't go there." Caleb frowned. "What? You can't go home yet? Why?" Her eyes darted toward the street, toward the passing cars, toward people who weren't even paying attention, then back to him. Fear lived in her face, real fear, the kind he had never seen before. "Mom, talk to me. You have to listen carefully." Her voice shook. Caleb felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. "I've been listening." "No." She swallowed hard. "You don't understand." He stared at her. Every phone call from the last 7 years flashed through his mind. Every update, every photo, every video chat. Every time Vanessa had smiled and told him everything was fine. His wife. The woman he trusted more than anyone. The woman who had promised to take care of Gloria while he built their future overseas. Caleb had believed her completely. When work became overwhelming, Vanessa reassured him. When he felt guilty for being away, Vanessa reassured him. When he worried about his mother, Vanessa reassured him. "Everything is fine. Mom is doing great. Don't worry, focus on your work. I'll handle things here." And he had believed every word. Gloria squeezed his wrist tighter. "How long have you been here?" Caleb asked quietly. Her eyes lowered. "Long enough." The answer made his chest hurt. He looked at her shoes, worn out, cracked, the soles nearly gone. Then he looked at the small duffel bag sitting beside her feet. Everything she owned appeared to fit inside it. A homeless mother. After 7 years of money transfers, after hundreds of thousands of dollars, after every sacrifice he had made, nothing made sense. "Mom," he said softly, "I'm taking you home." Her expression changed immediately. Panic. Pure panic. "No, why not? You don't understand." "Then help me understand." Gloria looked at him for a long moment. Tears filled her eyes. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because there's a reason I haven't gone back." Caleb stared at her. The wind blew through the freeway columns above them, And then Gloria said the words that made his blood run cold. "Someone has been waiting for the day you came home." Caleb stared at his mother, trying to understand what he was hearing. Someone had been waiting for the day he came home. The words didn't sound like something Gloria would invent. Fear wasn't natural on her face. His mother had spent most of her life surviving hard things without showing fear. She had worked through illness, through poverty, through the death of his father. Yet standing beneath that freeway, holding a worn duffel bag, she looked like a woman who had spent months looking over her shoulder. "Mom," he said quietly, "who are you talking about?" Gloria glanced toward the volunteers serving meals, then toward the line of people waiting. "Not here. Then let's go somewhere else." She hesitated. For a moment Caleb thought she might refuse. Then she nodded. A few minutes later they sat in a small diner several blocks away. It wasn't fancy, just a place with old booths, strong coffee, and tired waitresses who knew most of the regular customers by name. Gloria wrapped both hands around a mug of tea. She hadn't touched the food Caleb ordered for her. That bothered him more than he wanted to admit. His mother used to insist everyone eat. Now she seemed unsure whether she was allowed to. The thought hurt. "Start from the beginning," Caleb said. Gloria looked down. "When was the last time you spoke to me without Vanessa there?" The question caught him off guard. He thought about it. A month ago. Maybe 6 weeks, no longer. Every call had somehow included Vanessa. She would answer first, bring Gloria to the phone, explain things, translate little details, fill silences. He had never questioned it. Now he wondered why. "I don't know," he admitted. Gloria nodded slowly. "I know." Silence settled between them. Outside, cars moved through the afternoon traffic. Inside, dishes clinked softly, normal sounds. But nothing felt normal anymore. "You thought I was living at home." "Of course I did. You thought I was comfortable." "Yes. You thought I had everything I needed." Caleb felt his stomach tighten. "Mom," she looked up. There was no anger in her eyes. That somehow made it worse. "I know you were trying, Caleb." The words nearly broke him, because she wasn't accusing him. She was protecting him, even now. After everything, he looked away for a moment. As a boy, he had watched Gloria work 3 jobs at the same time, cleaning offices in the mornings, working a grocery register in the afternoons, preparing meals at a church kitchen on weekends. There were nights she came home so exhausted she fell asleep at the kitchen table. Yet somehow she still found energy to help him with homework, still found energy to ask about his day, still found energy to tell him he could become anything he wanted. Everything he built started with her, every achievement, every promotion, every dollar. And yet she had ended up standing in a homeless meal line. The shame settled heavily inside him. 7 years earlier, the day he left for Dubai, Gloria had cried at the airport. Not because she didn't want him to go, because she was proud. "You deserve your chance," she had told him. "I'll be fine." Vanessa had stood beside her that day. Young, kind, warm. Back then, Vanessa worked as a nurse in an assisted living facility. She had always been gentle with older people. Gloria loved her, everyone did. When Caleb received the overseas offer, Vanessa had been the one reassuring him. "We'll take care of each other. I'll make sure your mom never needs anything." He had believed her completely, and for years there had been no reason not to. Video calls, holiday photos, birthday celebrations, Gloria smiling from the living room sofa, Gloria holding birthday cakes, Gloria sitting in the backyard. Everything looked normal, everything looked safe. Now he wasn't sure any of it had been real. Gloria finally took a sip of tea. Then she asked a question. "Do you remember the pictures Vanessa sent last Christmas?" "Of course." "The red sweater?" "Yeah." A sad smile touched her face. "That photo was 4 years old." Cape froze. "What?" "The one before that. The Mother's Day photo in the garden." She looked down. That one was old too. The noise of the diner seemed to disappear. Caleb stared at her. "How many? I don't know." His heart sank. "Mom, she stopped taking new pictures a long time ago." "Why didn't you tell me?" Gloria gave a small, tired laugh. "Not because anything was funny. Because some truths became too painful." "Tell you how?" The question hit him hard. How? Every phone call went through Vanessa. Every visit had been postponed because of work. Every concern had been answered before it became a question. He had trusted convenience, trusted distance, trusted updates instead of presence. He thought he had been a good son because he sent money. Sitting across from his mother now, he realized how easy it was to confuse financial support with actual care. They were not the same thing, not even close. When did things start changing? He asked quietly. Gloria stared into her tea. At first they didn't, she paused. Vanessa was wonderful, the answer surprised him. Really? Yes, she nodded. The first couple of years she was exactly who you thought she was. That wasn't what he expected to hear. He expected hatred, bitterness, accusations. Instead, Gloria sounded sad, as if she were grieving someone who no longer existed. Then what happened? I don't know. She shook her head slowly. Maybe little things happened first. What little things? Secrets. Caleb frowned. Gloria looked toward the window. I started noticing phone calls she didn't want me to hear. Who was calling? I didn't know. Did you ask? Yes. And? She always had an answer. A friend, a business opportunity, an investment group, something harmless, something forgettable. At least that was what she claimed. Caleb leaned forward. His instincts as an engineer had always been simple. Problems didn't appear overnight. They started small, tiny cracks, tiny failures. Ignored long enough, they became disasters. The same thought suddenly crossed his mind now. What happened after that? Gloria's fingers tightened around the mug. For the first time since entering the diner, her eyes filled with tears. Not dramatic tears, quiet ones. The kind people spend a long time trying not to cry. When I realized something was wrong, she whispered, it was already too late. Caleb felt his pulse quicken. Mom. She looked directly at him, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. Caleb, Vanessa threw me out of the house almost a year ago. The world seemed to stop. A full year, not weeks, not months, almost a year. And he had never known. Then Gloria reached into her bag, slowly, carefully. She pulled out an envelope that looked old and badly worn. And when Caleb saw the name written across the front, his blood turned cold. It was addressed to him, in his mother's handwriting, and it had never been opened. Caleb took the envelope with both hands. The paper was creased and worn from being carried around for months. His mother's handwriting covered the front, his name, his old address in Dubai. The stamp had never been cancelled. It had never been mailed. For several seconds he simply stared at it. Then he looked up. Why didn't this reach me? Gloria lowered her eyes. I gave it to Vanessa. The answer landed like a punch. Caleb slowly opened the envelope. Inside were 3 pages folded neatly together. The first line made his throat tighten. Dear Caleb, I don't know if this letter will ever reach you. He read every word. Gloria had written it nearly 10 months earlier. At first, the letter was careful, almost apologetic. She explained that things felt different at home. Vanessa had become distant, secretive. Money that was supposed to cover bills seemed to disappear faster than it should. Then the letter changed. Gloria wrote about being left out of conversations, about being told certain rooms in the house were off limits, about strangers visiting when Vanessa thought nobody was watching. Near the end, the handwriting became shakier. I'm worried, son. I don't want to cause trouble. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm imagining things, but something doesn't feel right. Please call me directly if you can. Caleb finished reading. His chest felt hollow. The letter had been written before everything fell apart, before Gloria became homeless, before she was thrown out. This had been a warning, and he had never seen it, because the one person he trusted most had intercepted it. He folded the pages carefully and placed them back inside the envelope. Then he looked at his mother. I should have been here. Gloria immediately shook her head. No, Mom, no. Her voice was firm, stronger than before. You were building your life. I was building a life while you were sleeping who knows where. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Gloria looked away. That silence told him enough. He suddenly realized something. He didn't actually know where she had been sleeping. He knew she was homeless, but he didn't know the details, and somehow that scared him more. Where did you stay? Gloria hesitated. Then she answered honestly. Different places. His stomach tightened. A shelter, sometimes? She nodded. A church basement for a while. Her fingers tightened around the teacup. 1 week in a motel. Who paid for that? A woman from church. Caleb closed his eyes. A stranger had helped his mother. A stranger. While he sent thousands of dollars home every month believing she was safe. The shame was becoming unbearable. He paid the bill and helped Gloria outside. The afternoon sky had darkened slightly. Detroit's late autumn air carried a cold edge. As they walked toward the parking lot, Gloria stayed close to him. Not because she was weak, because she seemed uncertain. like someone who had spent too long navigating danger alone. The realization hurt. When Caleb was a child, she had always walked slightly ahead of him, protecting him. Now she was following him, trusting him to protect her, and he wasn't sure he had earned that trust. They climbed into the rental SUV. For a moment neither spoke, then Caleb started the engine. "We're going home." Gloria immediately stiffened. He noticed it. "Mom, you don't understand. Then help me understand." She stared through the windshield. "I don't think Vanessa expected you today." "Good. Caleb, good." The word came out harder than he intended. For the first time in years, anger was beginning to overpower confusion. 7 years of trust, 7 years of sacrifice. 7 years of lies. The drive across Detroit felt strangely familiar. Old streets, old neighborhoods, places he remembered from childhood. Some looked better, some looked worse. The closer they got to his old neighborhood, the quieter Gloria became. Finally, they turned onto Maple Ridge Lane. Caleb's hands tightened on the steering wheel. There it was, the house. The same brick house his father had bought decades earlier. The same house Gloria had fought to keep after becoming a widow. The same house Caleb had spent years helping repair. Except it didn't look the same anymore. The landscaping was new. The front porch had been remodeled. The garage door had been replaced. Everything looked expensive, polished, almost too polished. Like someone was showing off. Caleb parked across the street. Neither he nor Gloria moved. Then he noticed something else. A black BMW sat in the driveway. He frowned. Vanessa didn't own a BMW. At least she hadn't when he left. "Whose car is that?" Gloria didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "His." Caleb turned toward her. "His?" The man. A chill ran through him. "What man?" Gloria looked down. "The one who started visiting. The same man from the letter. The stranger she had mentioned months earlier." Caleb stared at the house. The curtains moved. Someone was inside, watching. The feeling hit him instantly. That uncomfortable feeling people get when they realize they aren't the observer anymore. They're the one being observed. "Stay here," he said. "No, I'm serious, no." Her answer surprised him. She looked directly at him. "I spent almost a year being afraid." The words were calm, steady. "I don't want to be afraid anymore." Something shifted inside Caleb. He nodded. Together they crossed the street. The front yard looked immaculate. Fresh flowers, fresh paint, new outdoor furniture. Everything looked perfect, too perfect, like a magazine advertisement for a happy family. Caleb rang the bell. Footsteps approached. Then the door opened. Vanessa Turner stood there. For 1 second she froze. Pure shock flashed across her face. Not joy, not relief, shock. Then it disappeared. A smile replaced it. Fast, practiced, beautiful. The same smile Caleb had trusted for 7 years. "Caleb." She threw her arms around him. He didn't move. The smile flickered, only slightly, but he saw it. Her eyes shifted, past him, toward Gloria, and suddenly something else appeared there. Not surprise, not concern. Something much closer to alarm. "Gloria," Vanessa said softly. "Oh my God," the performance started immediately. "I've been so worried." Caleb felt anger rise inside him. Worried. His mother had been homeless, and Vanessa was worried. Before he could answer, another voice came from inside the house. A man's voice, confident, relaxed. "Vanessa, who is it?" Silence. A tall man appeared in the hallway behind her. Well-dressed, expensive watch, designer sweater, the kind of man who looked very comfortable inside someone else's home. His eyes landed on Caleb, then Gloria. Something changed in his expression just for a moment. Recognition. The man knew exactly who Gloria was, and exactly who Caleb was. The smile disappeared from Vanessa's face completely. Nobody spoke. The cold wind moved through the open doorway. Then the stranger stepped forward and extended his hand. "Ryan Mercer," he said smoothly, "investment consultant." Caleb looked at the offered hand, then at the man standing inside his family's house. And for the first time since coming home, he realized this story was much bigger than a missing letter, much bigger than stolen money. Because the fear in Gloria's eyes wasn't directed at Vanessa, it was directed at Ryan. And Ryan looked like a man who had already expected this day to come. Ryan's hand remained extended for a few awkward seconds before he finally lowered it. Nobody smiled. Nobody spoke. The silence inside the doorway felt heavier than the cold air outside. Vanessa recovered first. "Why don't we all come inside?" she said. "Standing out here isn't helping anyone." Caleb stepped forward, not as a husband, not as a guest, as a son. He held the door open for Gloria and waited until she entered first. The look on Vanessa's face lasted only a fraction of a second, but Gloria noticed it. So did Caleb. Inside, the house smelled different. The familiar scent of Gloria's cooking was gone. The old furniture was gone. The family photographs that once lined the hallway had been replaced by abstract artwork and expensive decorative pieces. Everything looked polished, everything looked upgraded, yet somehow the house felt less like a home. Caleb slowly walked through the living room, the giant television, the designer sofa, the custom shelves, the marble coffee table. None of it belonged here. At least not in his memories. He had spent years sending money home believing he was supporting his family. Now he found himself wondering how much of that money was sitting right in front of him. Vanessa stood near the fireplace. Ryan remained by the kitchen entrance. Comfortable. Too comfortable. Like a man who had spent a lot of time inside this house. Would anyone like coffee? Vanessa asked. No. The answer came from Caleb instantly. His voice surprised even him. Cold, controlled. The voice he used during difficult contract negotiations. The voice people heard right before he uncovered a lie. He turned toward Ryan. How long have you known my wife? Ryan barely hesitated. A little over 2 years. Vanessa shifted slightly, not much, but enough. Caleb noticed. 2 years. Ryan nodded. We met through a financial networking group. Financial networking. That's right. The phrase sounded polished, practiced, prepared, like something repeated many times. Caleb looked toward Vanessa. You never mentioned him. Vanessa folded her arms. It wasn't important. The answer felt wrong. Not because of what she said, because of how quickly she said it. A small lie often arrived faster than the truth. Gloria remained standing near the front door. She hadn't moved further inside. Not because she couldn't, because she didn't feel welcome. The sight made something twist inside Caleb. This was her house, the house she and his father had built their lives in. Yet she stood near the exit like a visitor, like someone waiting to be told whether she could stay. That hurt more than the missing money, more than the lies. People could recover from financial loss. Recovering dignity was harder. Mom, Caleb said gently, sit down. Gloria looked uncertain, then she sat carefully on the edge of a chair, not the sofa, the chair closest to the door. Again, the same behavior he had noticed at the diner, the behavior of someone who had spent months learning not to take up space. Vanessa saw it too. For a moment, guilt flickered across her face. Then it disappeared. Gloria has been struggling, Vanessa said softly. The statement immediately caught Caleb's attention, not because of what she said, because of the timing. The explanation had arrived before the question. His instincts sharpened. Struggling how? Vanessa sighed, a long, patient sigh, the kind people use when they want to appear reasonable. I didn't want to burden you. Answer the question. Another pause. Then Vanessa looked down. There were memory issues. Gloria stared at her. Ryan looked away. Memory issues? Caleb repeated. Confusion. What kind of confusion? Vanessa folded her hands together. Small things at first. The story was ready. Too ready. She'd forget conversations. No reaction from Gloria. Forget appointments. Still nothing. Accuse people of moving things. The room grew quiet. Then Gloria finally spoke. Only 4 words. I never did that. Vanessa immediately turned toward her. Not angry. Concerned. Or at least pretending to be. See? Caleb felt something cold settle inside him. This wasn't spontaneous. This was familiar territory. Vanessa had rehearsed this. She had probably rehearsed it many times. The realization disturbed him more than he expected. Because it meant the narrative existed before today, before his arrival, maybe before Gloria was even thrown out. Ryan cleared his throat. Perhaps we should all calm down. Caleb looked at him. The man immediately stopped talking. A few seconds later, a knock sounded at the front door. Everyone turned. A young boy stood outside, maybe 12 years old, thin, dark hoodie, bike helmet hanging from one hand. He looked surprised to see so many people. Then his eyes found Gloria. Instantly his face brightened. Miss Gloria. The smile on Gloria's face appeared so naturally it almost broke Caleb's heart. There you are, the boy said. I've been looking for you. Vanessa looked irritated, very briefly, but Caleb saw it. The boy stepped inside. I was worried. I'm all right, Gloria said. You disappeared. Caleb watched the exchange carefully. The concern sounded genuine, real. Nothing like the performance he'd been hearing all afternoon. The boy noticed him. Oh, Gloria stood. Noah, this is my son Caleb. The boy's eyes widened. The son from Dubai? That's me, Noah smiled. For the first time all day, Caleb saw genuine happiness in someone's face. Not calculation, not fear, just relief. Good, Noah said. You finally came back. The words hit harder than Noah probably intended, because Caleb heard what wasn't being said. You should have been here. Noah seemed to realize it too. His smile faded slightly. Sorry. It's okay, Caleb said quietly. The boy shifted awkwardly, then looked toward Gloria. I brought your medication. He held up a small pharmacy bag. The room froze. Medication. Gloria took the bag carefully. Thank you. Noah shrugged. My grandma picked it up. Caleb stared. His mother had blood pressure medication, and a neighbor's family had been helping her get it. Not Vanessa, not him, neighbors, strangers, people who owed her nothing. Something inside him cracked a little deeper. Noah glanced toward Vanessa, then quickly looked away. A tiny movement, easy to miss. Caleb didn't miss it. Years of business had trained him to notice discomfort, fear, avoidance. The boy clearly didn't like Vanessa, and Vanessa clearly didn't like him. Interesting, very interesting. A few minutes later Noah left, but before reaching the door, he turned back. Miss Gloria, yes? The boy hesitated, then spoke carefully. You still have a place if you need it. Gloria smiled. Thank you. Noah nodded and left. The door closed. Silence followed. Then Caleb looked directly at Vanessa. Why would a 12-year-old think my mother needs somewhere else to stay? Nobody answered. Vanessa looked away. Ryan suddenly became fascinated by the floor, and Gloria lowered her eyes. That silence told Caleb more than any explanation could have. Then another detail finally clicked into place. The medication, the neighbor, the concern, the way Noah knew Gloria, the way Gloria trusted him. Those relationships didn't develop over a few days, or even a few weeks. They took time, a lot of time. Caleb slowly turned toward his mother. How long? Gloria looked up. He already knew the answer would hurt, but he asked anyway. How long were you gone from this house? Tears appeared in her eyes. She swallowed once, then answered, almost 11 months. The room went completely silent, and for the first time Caleb realized this nightmare had started much earlier than he had imagined. Almost 11 months. The number hung in the room like smoke. Nobody spoke. Caleb looked at his mother and tried to imagine what 11 months actually meant. 11 months of missed birthdays, 11 months of winter nights, 11 months of eating wherever she could, sleeping wherever she could, waiting for a phone call that never came, and through all of it he had kept sending money, thousands of dollars every month. The thought made him physically sick. Vanessa finally broke the silence. That's not the whole story. Caleb turned toward her. For the first time since entering the house, he saw something beyond calculation in her face. Not guilt, not exactly. More like desperation. The whole story? He asked quietly. Vanessa folded her arms. She left. Gloria stared at her. No, you did. No. Ryan shifted uncomfortably near the kitchen. Caleb noticed. Interesting, the man who had seemed so confident earlier suddenly looked far less comfortable. Vanessa took a breath. She became impossible to live with. The words felt rehearsed, prepared. Caleb had heard versions of them before. In business disputes, in legal complaints. People often started with vague language when they didn't have facts. Impossible, difficult, confused, unstable. The details usually came later, if they came at all. What exactly does that mean? Caleb asked. Vanessa hesitated. Then she said it. She started showing signs of dementia. The room froze. Even Ryan looked surprised, not shocked, just surprised she had gone there so quickly. Gloria closed her eyes. For a second she looked tired, not angry, not defeated, just tired. Like someone hearing a familiar lie again. Caleb felt something inside him harden. Dementia. Vanessa nodded. There were incidents. What incidents? She forgot things. What things? Appointments. Which appointments? Vanessa paused a little too long. Caleb noticed. So you don't remember? I do remember. Then tell me. Another pause. No answer. Ryan looked away. The silence spoke for itself. Caleb walked across the room and looked at the family photos that remained on one shelf. Only a few were left. Most were newer. Mostly pictures of him and Vanessa, very few included Gloria. And every photo that did looked old, years old. He suddenly understood something. The house hadn't simply changed. His mother had been erased from it, piece by piece, frame by frame, memory by memory, like someone carefully removing evidence that she had ever belonged there. The realization sent a chill through him. A knock interrupted the tension. 3 quick knocks. Then the front door opened before anyone answered. A woman stepped inside, late 60s. Grey hair. Large grocery bag hanging from one arm. She stopped immediately when she saw Caleb. Then she looked at Gloria. Oh, thank God. The relief in her voice was genuine. Gloria stood. Margaret. The two women hugged, not dramatically, just tightly, like people who had been through something difficult together. Caleb watched carefully. Margaret looked toward him. You must be Caleb, yes. Her expression changed, not hostile, not warm, complicated. You finally made it home. The words stung again. Not because they were cruel, because they were true. Margaret set down the grocery bag. I brought some soup. She turned toward Gloria. You haven't eaten properly in days. Caleb looked at his mother. Gloria didn't argue. That worried him. His mother used to argue about everything related to food. Now she simply accepted help. Margaret followed his gaze. Then she realized, you don't know. The room grew quiet. What don't I know? Caleb asked. Margaret looked at Gloria. Gloria shook her head slightly, but Margaret ignored it. Your mother spent most of last winter sleeping in an abandoned bus shelter behind St. Mark's. The words hit like a hammer. Caleb couldn't speak. Margaret continued, not dramatically, matter-of-factly. The way people speak when they're tired of pretending things weren't real. The church helped when they could. She glanced toward Vanessa. So did a few neighbors. Silence. Some people pretended not to notice. More silence. Vanessa looked away. Ren stared at the floor. Margaret clearly had opinions about both of them. Years of opinions, Caleb could see it. Then another voice appeared from the doorway. Miss Gloria? Everyone turned. It was Noah, the boy from earlier. His bicycle stood outside. He held a small notebook in one hand. He looked nervous, very nervous, but determined. Can I come in? Gloria smiled gently. Of course. The boy stepped inside. His eyes landed on Caleb. Then Vanessa. Then quickly moved away. He swallowed. I remembered something. Nobody interrupted. Noah held up the notebook. I write things down. What things? Caleb asked. The boy shrugged awkwardly. My grandma says if something feels important, write it down before you forget. The notebook looked old, used. Several pages were folded. Some corners were torn. Noah opened it carefully. I started keeping notes when Miss Gloria got kicked out. The room became very still. Vanessa's face changed only slightly, but enough. Caleb saw it, fear, tiny, but real. Noah flipped through pages. Dates, handwritten notes, short observations, simple things. Miss Gloria slept at church. Miss Gloria got sick. Miss Gloria needed medicine. Miss Gloria wasn't allowed inside. Nothing dramatic, just facts. The kind facts become when a child writes them. Then Noah stopped at one page. I remember this one, he pointed. Because it was snowing. Caleb looked down. The date was from 8 months earlier. The note underneath was simple. Miss Gloria knocked on her own front door. Mrs. Turner wouldn't let her in. Silence. Heavy silence. Noah continued turning pages. There were more, many more, not accusations, records, the kind nobody expected a child to keep. Then he reached into his backpack. I have something else. He pulled out his phone. The screen was cracked, old, cheap. He tapped through photos, then handed it to Caleb. The image made his stomach drop. Gloria, curled beneath a blanket, sleeping inside what looked like an abandoned bus shelter. Snow visible outside, date stamp in the corner 7 months earlier. Caleb looked up slowly, his vision blurred for a moment. Not from anger, from heartbreak. A mother who had spent her life protecting him, sleeping alone in the cold, while he believed she was safe at home. Noah shifted nervously. I took pictures because my grandma said social workers might need proof. Proof, the word echoed through Caleb's head. Proof, the notebook, the photos, the dates, the details. A child had been documenting the truth, while adults were busy hiding it. Then Noah frowned, his eyes narrowed slightly, like he had just remembered something. Wait, everyone looked at him. I forgot. He flipped through the notebook again, faster this time, searching. Then he stopped. There.
Thing is Disney touched page.
What is it? Caleb asked. Noah looked up. His face had gone pale. I remember seeing Mrs. Turner at Detroit Memorial Hospital. Vanessa stiffened instantly. The reaction was impossible to miss. Noah pointed at the date. She wasn't alone. The room went silent. She was signing papers. Caleb felt his pulse quicken. What papers? Noah swallowed. I don't know. Then he looked toward Gloria, and Miss Gloria was there too. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Noah said the words that changed everything. She was crying. Nobody spoke after Noah's words. The room felt smaller, colder. Caleb looked at Vanessa. She wasn't looking at Noah anymore. She was looking at the floor. That alone told him enough. People didn't avoid eye contact when they were falsely accused. They avoided it when they recognized the truth. Noah's face shifted nervously. I didn't mean to cause trouble. You didn't, Caleb said quietly. The boy looked relieved. Margaret placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You told the truth. Noah nodded and looked toward Gloria. Then, sensing something serious was happening, he quietly excused himself and left with Margaret. The front door closed. Silence returned. This time it felt heavier. Caleb turned toward his mother. What happened at the hospital? Gloria didn't answer immediately. Her fingers twisted together in her lap. The gesture reminded him of childhood. She always did that when discussing something painful. Finally she sighed. It was 6 months before she put me out. Vanessa closed her eyes, just briefly, like someone who already knew where this conversation was heading. I thought it was a doctor's appointment. Caleb listened carefully. I had been forgetting small things, nothing unusual. Names, grocery items, normal things. She smiled sadly. People my age forget things sometimes. Nobody argued, because it was true. Vanessa said she wanted me checked. She said she was worried. The words sounded bitter now. Not because of what had happened then. Because of what they meant now. We went to Detroit Memorial. Gloria looked toward the window, remembering. I thought we were seeing a specialist. What happened? They asked questions. What kind of questions? Memory tests, orientation questions, dates, family names. Caleb frowned. Those evaluations existed. They were common. Reasonable, nothing unusual so far. But something about the story still felt wrong. What happened after that? Gloria hesitated, then looked directly at him. I wasn't allowed to see the paperwork. A chill moved through him. Why not? They said Vanessa was handling everything. Caleb slowly turned toward his wife. She still hadn't spoken. Not once. Not since Noah mentioned the hospital. That silence was becoming increasingly loud. Gloria continued. Then there was another appointment. Another one? She nodded. Different doctor. Caleb's stomach tightened. And another. The room fell silent again. 3 evaluations. Not 1, 3. Now it felt deliberate, methodical, like someone building a file, not treating a patient, building a case. Did they ever diagnose you with dementia? Caleb asked. No, the answer came instantly, without hesitation. No, then why keep sending you back? Gloria looked down. I didn't know. Vanessa suddenly stood. I can't do this. Both Caleb and Gloria looked at her. Her face was pale now, not angry, scared. Tried to help. The words sounded weak, even she seemed to know it. Help? Caleb asked. His voice remained calm, which somehow felt more dangerous. That's what you call this? I was worried. No, he shook his head. You were building something. The words landed harder than he intended, because deep down he already suspected they were true. Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it again, no answer. Ryan quietly moved toward the door. Caleb noticed. Interesting, very interesting. The man who had arrived looking confident now looked like someone searching for an exit. Don't leave. Ryan froze. The command had been simple, but firm. Ryan slowly turned back. Caleb stared at him. How much did you know? I don't know what you're talking about. The answer came too fast, far too fast. Caleb had spent years negotiating contracts worth millions. People lied with words, but they revealed themselves with timing, and Ryan had just revealed plenty. Late that night, after Gloria had gone to sleep in a nearby hotel Caleb booked for her, he sat alone at a desk. His laptop glowed in the darkness. For hours he searched. Medical regulations, guardianship laws, long-term care facilities, memory evaluations, everything connected to elderly care. The more he read, the more uneasy he became. A pattern slowly emerged, not proof, but a pattern. Some families abused the system, not often, but often enough. A concerned relative could initiate evaluations, medical notes accumulated, observations were recorded, eventually a case could be built, especially if an older person lacked strong family support. Caleb stared at the screen. Then he thought about distance. 7 years, an ocean between him and home, a son who trusted phone calls, a mother with no advocate. The realization made him sick. At 2 a.m, he made another decision. The next morning he called an attorney, a woman named Karen Ellis, specialist in elder law, sharp reputation, 20 years of experience. She agreed to meet immediately. 3 hours later they sat inside her office downtown. Caleb told her everything, the money, the homelessness, the hospital visits, the notebook, the photographs, Noah's statement. Karen listened without interruption. When he finished, she remained silent for several seconds. Then she asked one question. Do you have your mother's permission to investigate? Yes. Good. She folded her hands. Because if even half of what you're describing is accurate, we're no longer talking about family conflict. Caleb felt his pulse quicken. What are we talking about? Her answer came carefully. Elder exploitation. The words settled heavily between them. Not an argument, not a misunderstanding, not a marriage problem. Something bigger, something legal, something dangerous. Karen opened a folder. I'll start with medical records. Can we get them? Your mother can request them. Caleb nodded. Then let's do it. 3 days later they had the first set. Not everything, just enough. Enough to raise questions. Karen sat across from him in a conference room. Pages spread across the table. Evaluations, notes, observations, physician comments. At first glance they looked ordinary. Then she pointed. Here. Caleb leaned closer. One observation described Gloria becoming disoriented during an interview. Another claimed she struggled to identify family members. Another mentioned increasing confusion. Caleb frowned. That doesn't sound like her. It doesn't. Karen nodded. That's why I kept reading. She slid another page toward him. Different appointment, different day, different physician. The notes directly contradicted the first report. Memory intact, orientation normal, no significant cognitive impairment observed. Caleb stared. What? Karen handed him a third report. Again, different conclusions, different observations, nothing matched. The file looked less like medical care and more like competing stories. Then Karen stopped at a final page. For the first time since the meeting began, her expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough. Enough for Caleb to notice. What is it? Karen tapped the page. This. He looked down. A referral form. One signature missing. Just one. His stomach tightened. What am I looking at? Karen exhaled slowly. A recommendation for placement evaluation. The room seemed to tilt. What does that mean? She met his eyes. It means someone was trying to begin the process of placing your mother into a long-term residential facility. Caleb stopped breathing for a second. No. Karen slid the paper closer. The process wasn't completed. Why missing authorization? Silence. Heavy silence. Then Karen pointed to the empty signature line. If this signature had been obtained, things could have moved much further. Caleb stared at the blank space. His mind immediately calculated the timeline, the hospital, the reports, the accusations, the dementia story, the homelessness, the distance. Then a terrifying thought hit him. If he had returned 2 weeks later, or 2 months later, or believed Vanessa's version of events, his mother might already be gone, placed somewhere, hidden behind paperwork, written off as confused, forgotten. Karen closed the folder. But before she could speak again, Gloria suddenly looked up from the chair beside them. Her eyes widened, like she had just remembered something, something important, something she hadn't thought about in months. Wait. Both Caleb and Karen turned toward her. Gloria slowly reached into her purse and whispered 4 words that changed everything. I still have it. Karen stared at Gloria for a moment. What do you mean you still have it? Gloria looked embarrassed, almost apologetic. As soon as Vanessa started acting differently, I became worried. She reached deeper into her purse. Her hands moved slowly, carefully. Then she pulled out a small key attached to a faded plastic tag. Caleb frowned. What is that? A storage unit key. The room went silent. Gloria looked between Caleb and Karen. I rented it almost a year ago. Caleb blinked. His mother had been sleeping in shelters, church basements, and under freeway overpasses. Yet somehow she had protected something all this time. Karen leaned forward. What did you put inside? Gloria hesitated. Anything I thought might matter one day. An hour later they were driving across the city. The storage facility sat between a tire shop and a warehouse district on the east side of Detroit. Nothing about it looked important. Rows of metal doors, chain link fencing, security cameras, the kind of place thousands of people drove past without noticing. Gloria led them toward a narrow unit near the back. Her hands trembled slightly as she inserted the key, not from fear, from memory. The lock clicked. The door rolled upward. Dust floated through the afternoon sunlight. Inside sat only a few boxes, an old folding chair, 2 plastic bins, and a weathered cardboard carton sealed with tape. Caleb stared. This was everything she had managed to save, everything she had protected while surviving on almost nothing. Gloria stepped inside. For a second she seemed smaller, older, not because of age, because every object in that room belonged to a life someone had tried to erase. She knelt beside the carton. Inside were folders, envelopes, bank statements, receipts, photographs, medical paperwork, years of carefully saved records. Karen immediately crouched beside her. "Oh my God, what?" Caleb asked. Karen lifted several statements. "These are original bank documents." Caleb took them. His stomach tightened. Month after month, transfer after transfer, the numbers were there, everything he had sent from Dubai, every deposit, every withdrawal, every transfer that followed. For the first time, the money trail was visible. Not complete, but visible. Gloria looked at him quietly. "I started saving them because things didn't feel right." When? The first time money disappeared. Caleb swallowed hard. His mother had seen the danger long before he had. Not because she was suspicious, because she was paying attention. There was a difference. Karen continued sorting through documents. Then she stopped again. A second time, Caleb. He looked up. She held up several printed emails. "These came from your household account." His pulse quickened. The messages showed conversations between Vanessa and Ryan. Months old, then older, nearly 2 years old. Requests for transfers, discussions about hiding losses, nothing criminal by itself, but together they painted a picture of intent, a picture of planning, a picture far different from Vanessa's claim that she had simply made a mistake. Then Karen discovered another envelope. Inside were handwritten notes, Gloria's handwriting, dates, observations, people entering the house, cars parked outside, times Ryan visited, arguments overheard through walls, small details, the kind most people ignored, but together they formed a timeline. An elderly woman documenting her own disappearance before it fully happened. Caleb felt something tighten in his chest. His mother had been preparing for a day nobody believed her. That realization hurt more than the financial betrayal, because it revealed how alone she had felt. Karen carefully stacked everything into categories. Then Gloria pointed toward the second plastic bin. "There is more." Caleb opened it. Inside sat an external hard drive, old, dusty, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag. "What is this?" Gloria smiled faintly. "The doorbell camera." Caleb stared. "The old system?" She nodded. Before Caleb moved overseas, he had installed a basic security camera at the house. Nothing fancy, just enough to monitor deliveries. Years ago, he stopped checking it. Eventually, Vanessa told him it no longer worked. Apparently, that wasn't entirely true. "I disconnected it before she could throw it away." Gloria's voice remained calm. "I didn't know whether it still had anything useful." Karen looked at Caleb. "Can you access it?" "I think so." Back at the attorney's office, they spent nearly 2 hours trying. Old hardware, outdated software, corrupted files. The process felt endless. Then finally the screen flickered. Video folders appeared, dozens of them. Caleb leaned forward. Karen sat beside him. Gloria remained quiet, watching, waiting. The first clips showed ordinary life, deliveries, neighbors, rainstorms, nothing important. Then the timeline moved forward. Months later, Ryan's car appeared repeatedly, morning, afternoon, evening, far more often than Vanessa had admitted. Karen took notes. Clip after clip built the pattern. Then they reached a recording from 11 months earlier. The screen showed Gloria standing at the front door. She held 2 grocery bags. The weather looked cold, windy. The camera captured no audio, but the images were enough. The front door opened. Vanessa appeared. The 2 women exchanged words. Then Vanessa blocked the entrance. Gloria stood there, waiting, trying again. Vanessa shook her head. The door closed. Gloria remained outside, alone. For several seconds she simply stood there. Then she slowly turned away. Caleb looked away from the screen. He couldn't watch anymore. Not for a moment. Not because it was dramatic. Because it felt painfully ordinary. The kind of cruelty that happened quietly, without witnesses, without headlines. A woman being denied entry to her own home. Karen broke the silence. "There are timestamps." Caleb nodded. His voice barely worked. "I see them." The footage continued. Another clip. Then another. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Repeated exclusions, repeated confrontations, repeated attempts to isolate Gloria. Then came the video that changed everything. The timestamp showed the day Gloria had been forced out. The screen displayed Vanessa and Ryan standing near the front porch. Several suitcases sat beside them. Gloria stood nearby. Caleb felt his pulse racing. There was no audio, but there didn't need to be. The images spoke clearly. Ryan carried boxes outside. Vanessa pointed toward the sidewalk. Gloria remained still. Then Ryan placed another suitcase beside the curb. Minutes later, the front door closed, and Gloria was left standing alone. The timestamp kept running. 5 minutes, 10, 20. Nobody came back outside. Nobody checked on her. Nobody helped. The elderly woman eventually picked up a single bag, then slowly walked away, out of frame, out of her own life. Karen stared at the screen. Nobody spoke. Then another folder appeared. A later recording, 3 days afterward. The camera still functioned, still recording. The clip showed Vanessa and Ryan standing near the front entrance, talking, laughing, holding documents. Ryan pointed toward a folder. Vanessa nodded. Then Ryan tapped a stack of papers and made a wiping motion across the air. Cleaning something away. Removing something. Organizing something. Neither knew the camera was watching. Karen paused the frame, zoomed in. A logo appeared on one document, small, but visible. The logo of the same medical assessment company whose reports they had reviewed earlier. The room fell silent. Caleb stared at the screen. Every piece was beginning to connect. The money, the medical evaluations, the isolation, the lies, the paperwork. Ryan wasn't just helping Vanessa hide financial losses. He was helping build the foundation for something much larger. Karen slowly closed her notebook, then looked directly at Caleb. For the first time since they began working together, she sounded completely certain. "We have enough." Caleb looked at her. "What happens now?" Karen took a slow breath. Now there was no hesitation in her voice. No more private investigation. She closed the laptop. "It's time to call the police." And at that exact moment, Caleb's phone began to ring. The caller ID showed a name he hadn't seen in weeks. Vanessa Turner. "I'll continue the story in the requested format." Caleb stared at the phone vibrating in his hand. "Vanessa." For a moment nobody spoke. Karen watched him carefully. Gloria looked away. Not because she was afraid, because she was tired. Tired of hearing the voice of the woman who had taken almost everything from her. The phone kept ringing. Finally Caleb answered. "Hello." Silence, then Vanessa's voice came through, soft, careful, almost fragile. "Caleb," he said nothing. "I heard you've been talking to lawyers." Still nothing. Another pause. Then she exhaled. "I need to see you." "Why?" "Because this has gone too far." Caleb nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. Too far. His mother had spent nearly a year without a home. His marriage had been built on lies. A fraudulent medical file had nearly erased an elderly woman's voice. And now Vanessa thought things had gone too far. "You should have thought about that earlier." Her breathing changed, a tiny crack, the sound of someone realizing they no longer controlled the conversation. "Please," one word, nothing more. Caleb looked toward Karen. She gave a small nod. "Meet her, listen. Document everything." He understood. Where? An hour later they met in a quiet coffee shop downtown. Public place, daylight, witnesses everywhere. Vanessa arrived alone. No Ryan, no designer clothes. No polished appearance. She looked exhausted. The confidence that once filled every room had disappeared. She sat across from Caleb. For several seconds neither spoke. Then Vanessa looked down at her coffee. "I know what you found, do you?" She nodded. "The storage unit." Caleb's eyes narrowed. Interesting. She knew about it. That meant she had suspected Gloria was keeping evidence. Maybe for longer than anyone realized. Vanessa swallowed. "I never wanted this." The words sounded sincere, but sincerity and truth were not always the same thing. "You never wanted what?" She looked up. 12 months ago I could still fix it. Caleb remained silent. She continued. "The money was already gone. There it was, the first honest sentence. The investments failed. Ryan kept promising he could recover everything." Her eyes filled with tears, real tears this time. Not dramatic, not theatrical. Just exhausted. "I kept believing him." Caleb studied her face. For the first time in weeks he saw something that wasn't manipulation, fear. Not fear of losing him. Fear of finally seeing herself clearly. "I was embarrassed." Her voice shook. "I didn't know how to tell you." The confession hung between them. Painfully human, painfully believable. Not enough to excuse anything, but enough to explain it. "When did you decide to throw my mother out?" Vanessa flinched. Not physically, emotionally. Like the question had struck somewhere deep. "I didn't plan it at first." The answer came quietly. "Ryan said she was a risk." Caleb felt anger rise immediately. A risk? She knew about the money. Vanessa wiped her eyes. He kept saying if she talked to you before we fixed things, everything would collapse. Everything. The marriage, the lies, the money, the illusion, the life Vanessa had built. Finally understood something. This wasn't a story about greed alone. Greed had started it, fear had finished it, fear of being exposed, fear of losing status, fear of admitting failure. The worst decisions often grew from both. You could have told me. I know. You could have asked for help. I know. You could have protected my mother. The tears fell now. I know. For a second, Caleb remembered the woman he married, the woman who once volunteered at nursing homes, the woman who sat beside hospital beds reading to lonely patients. That woman had existed. She had been real. That was the tragedy. Vanessa hadn't started as a monster. She had become someone she no longer recognized, and every lie required another, and another, and another, until there was no way back. A shadow moved outside the coffee shop window, then another. 2 men in suits, 1 uniformed officer. Karen had moved faster than expected. The legal process was already beginning. Vanessa noticed them too. Her face drained of color. They came already? Caleb didn't answer. The front door opened. A detective stepped inside, professional, calm, no drama, no shouting, no handcuffs waved around, just procedure, the way real consequences usually arrived, quietly. The detective approached their table. Mrs. Turner? Vanessa closed her eyes, for one brief moment, then opened them again. Yes, we'd like to ask you some questions. She nodded, no resistance, no scene, just resignation. As she stood, she looked at Caleb. For a second he thought she might ask for forgiveness. Instead, she said something else. Something smaller. Something sadder. I did love you, Caleb believed her. That was the worst part. He believed her. Love had been there once. It simply hadn't been enough to stop everything that followed. The detective escorted her outside. Caleb remained seated, alone, watching through the window. A few blocks away, another part of the investigation was unfolding. Ryan Mercer wasn't cooperating, not at first, but frozen accounts had a way of changing people's attitudes. So did search warrants. So did evidence. 3 days later, Ryan began talking. A lot. Emails, messages, transfer records, financial agreements, everything, and buried inside those records was the final piece. Proof Vanessa had approved the transfers. Proof she knew exactly where the money was going. Proof she participated from the beginning, not blindly, knowingly. The illusion finally collapsed. Completely. No more uncertainty, no more competing stories. Only facts. 1 week later, Caleb stood outside the house where he grew up. The legal process was still ongoing. Nothing was fully finished, but a court order had restored temporary possession. The locks had already been changed. Ryan was gone, Vanessa was gone. The house stood quiet beneath the gray Detroit sky. Beside him stood Gloria. She hadn't crossed the property line yet. Not once. She simply stared, like someone looking at a place that belonged to a different lifetime. Caleb gently touched her arm. It's okay, Mom, she nodded, but didn't move. Not immediately, because coming home after betrayal wasn't simple, even when the door was finally open, even when justice was beginning. Some wounds needed time to believe they were safe. Finally, Gloria took a step forward, then another, then another. Together they walked toward the front porch, toward the house, toward everything that had been taken, and everything that still might be rebuilt. As Gloria reached for the front door, her hand stopped suddenly. Her eyes widened. She wasn't looking at the house anymore. She was looking at something lying on the welcome mat. A large sealed envelope, no return address, only one name written across the front, Caleb Turner, and beneath it in unfamiliar handwriting, 3 words that made his blood run cold. Read this first. The envelope contained only a single handwritten letter. Caleb read it standing on the front porch while Gloria waited beside him. It was from Vanessa, not an excuse, not a defense, not a request for forgiveness, just a confession. She admitted she had known Ryan's investments were failing much earlier than she claimed. She admitted she had lied during phone calls. She admitted she had allowed fear to become more important than honesty. Near the end of the letter, one sentence stood out above all the others. I kept telling myself I was protecting my future, but I was really destroying the people who gave me one. Caleb folded the letter and placed it back inside the envelope. Neither he nor Gloria said much. There was nothing left to argue about. The courts would handle the rest. The investigations would continue. The consequences had already begun. A few months later, Ryan faced multiple fraud-related charges connected to financial misconduct that extended beyond Caleb's family. Several accounts remained frozen while the legal process moved forward. Vanessa accepted a plea agreement tied to her role in the financial deception and elder abuse case. She avoided prison time, but lost nearly everything she had spent years trying to protect. When Caleb heard the outcome, he felt no victory, only sadness, not because justice had failed, because so much damage had happened before justice arrived. But life slowly began moving in a different direction. The first real sign came when Gloria returned to her bedroom, not the temporary room she had used after coming back, her actual bedroom, the one overlooking the backyard, the one where family photographs once sat, the one where she had spent years praying for her son's safety. Caleb helped repaint the walls. They brought back her old dresser from storage. They found her favorite lamp at a second-hand shop after the original one had disappeared. Little by little, the room stopped looking like a place that had been taken from her, and started looking like home again. Spring arrived. The backyard that had once been neglected slowly came back to life. Caleb spent weekends outside, digging, planting, repairing old garden beds. His father had loved that yard. As a child, Caleb remembered watching him work there after long shifts. Back then, he never understood why his father cared so much about flowers and tomato plants. Now he did. Some things weren't about growing plants. They were about creating a place people wanted to come home to. One Saturday morning, a familiar bicycle appeared at the gate. Noah. The boy froze when he saw Caleb walking toward him. For a second, he looked worried, as if he had done something wrong. Then Caleb smiled. "Come inside." Noah followed him nervously. Gloria was already setting lemonade on the kitchen table. The same kitchen where so much pain had once been hidden. The same kitchen that finally felt warm again. Caleb thanked the boy. Not with a speech, not with grand words, just honestly. He told Noah that many adults had looked away, many adults had stayed silent, but Noah hadn't. The boy lowered his eyes. "I just didn't think it was fair." Gloria reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Sometimes the simplest reasons carried the most courage. A few weeks later, Caleb announced something that surprised even his mother. He was moving most of his work back to Detroit. Not completely. His company still operated internationally. But he no longer wanted a life that existed almost entirely on airplanes and video calls. He wanted breakfast at home. He wanted ordinary Tuesdays. He wanted to be close enough to notice when someone he loved needed help. Gloria never tried to stop him. But she also never celebrated the money he had earned. She never asked about investments, or profits, or promotions. Instead, she asked whether he was sleeping enough, whether he was eating properly, whether he wanted another helping of dinner. The same questions she had asked when he was 12. Some things never changed. The biggest project came later that year. Using part of the recovered funds, Caleb created a local foundation that partnered with churches, clinics, and community groups to help abandoned elderly residents. Nothing flashy, no giant building with his name on it. Just practical help. Temporary housing, medical advocacy, transportation, legal support, the kinds of things his own mother had needed when nobody was paying attention. The foundation started small, but it mattered, because behind every application was a real person. Someone's mother, someone's father, someone who deserved not to disappear. One evening, nearly a year after Caleb had stepped out of the airport believing everything was fine, he sat across from Gloria at the kitchen table. Dinner was simple. Roast chicken, green beans, bread from a local bakery. Nothing expensive, nothing impressive. The sunlight faded through the window. The house was quiet, peaceful. For a while neither spoke. Then Gloria looked at her son. "You know," she said softly, "I never cared about the money." Caleb smiled sadly. "I know, I missed you." That was all. No dramatic speech. No tears. Just the truth. The truth she had carried for years. Caleb looked down at his plate, then back at his mother, and finally understood something he should have understood long ago. The money had never been the promise. The promise was him, his presence, his time, his willingness to stay connected even when life became busy. That was what she had been waiting for. Not wealth, not success, just her son. The next morning Caleb woke early and made tea, the way Gloria liked it, strong, a little sweet. He cantered 2 cups to the kitchen. Outside the window, the garden was alive again. Flowers moved gently in the breeze. The old yard no longer looked abandoned. Gloria sat quietly at the table, watching the sunlight spread across the grass. Caleb placed the tea beside her. Neither said much, neither needed to. For the first time in many years there was no waiting, no distance, no wondering when he would come home. He was already there, and somehow that meant more than everything else. If this story left you thinking about someone you love, maybe take a moment to reach out while you still can. And if this journey touched your heart, feel free to share your thoughts below and join us again for another story.